So today we will have our last group presentation, but we will spend the first session for the lecture. So let me go to the lecture.
Sure, how about our midterm, sir?
I will pause the midterm after we finish the class today. Okay,
Oh,
and
so it is take home midterm, right,
right,
sir?
yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. Understood, sir.
Okay, so yeah, last time, okay, we talked about the money market, and we look at what exactly is money, and we come up with the conclusion that when we talk about money, we need to talk about the functions. And we learned that money have three important functions. The first one is it will be used as a medium of exchange. Secondly, it will be used as unit of account. And the last function is we store the value. Okay. And we also discuss about the measurement of money. And we learned that in order to measure the money in the whole economy, we would use the money supply and M0, which can be measured by adding the currency in the hand of publics plus the deposit at the bank. We also learn how the central bank regulate or influence the money supply. We learned that there are three mechanisms that the central bank would influence or increase or reduce the money supply, including the open market operations, reserve requirement adjustment, and interbank interest rate managing. Okay. We also before we end the discussion last week, we create a model, okay, which we call the a money market model. Okay, in that model we put the interest rate on the vertical axis. You can think of this like a deposit interest rate, and we put the real money demand and the real money supply on the horizontal axis. Okay, and we have the demand, the real demand for money, which is a slope down or negative slope line, suggesting that whenever the interest rate is lower, the real demand for money. In other words, people prefer to keep more cash at hand. Okay, so that they can spend very easily. Okay, as long as the interest rate is decreasing, it is better to keep more cash at hand. So the demand for money increase when the interest rate is lower. On the opposite, when interest rate is higher, people would not want to keep more cash with them in the pocket. They prefer keep at the bank as deposit to earn interest rate. So the real demand for money actually slope downward. And the vertical line here is the real money supply, and it is independent. I mean, it's not depending on interest rate because the quantity of money that has been injected or put into the economy is discrete decisions by the central bank. Okay, so we draw that line vertically, and we learned that equilibrium in this money market happen when the real money demand is real and the real money supply is equal. In other words, let's say, for example, people need money that is enough to buy 10 bottles of water. Then the central bank would also inject or supply money into the economy, which is enough to buy 10 bottles of water. That is the equilibrium. So in this diagram, the equilibrium is at 0.1, okay, 0.1, in which interest rate is equaling to R1, and the real money demand and real money supply is equaling to Q1. In other words, the money allow people to buy quantity of good equaling to Q1 in this economy. Okay, if it's not there, okay, there will be a tendency to be at 0.1. If it is either at 0.2 or at 0.3, there will be the gravity that draw, okay, toward equilibrium at point 1, okay. If there is less demand than the money supply, then interest rate will be lower, okay. And if there is more demand than the available money in the economy, interest rate will be high as people want to borrow. Okay, we can use this to study about different kind of central bank policy. For example, when the central bank decide to increase money supply, we can learn that the quantity of money that have been put into the economy have increased. Okay, and in the short run, when price does not change, we see that interest rate drop. Okay, there are more money in the economy. Okay, because the central bank have printed and put the money into the economy. Okay, interest rate would be lower, which is a good sign because as people can borrow more money to finance the business, they can expand the business, they can create more job. Okay, so this is the way that you can pump up the demand in the economy. Okay, so this is how the increase in money supply would have the impact on interest rate in the money market. We can do the reverse. Okay, for example, in the US, as the Federal Reserve tighten the money supply, we know interest rate will be higher. Okay, as the money in the economy of the US economy have been reduced, interest rate on US dollar would be higher. Okay. This is the another scenario where we can use the model to draw conclusion about another situation. This is in situation where the economy experience economic growth. Okay, so you can see that as people become richer, because economy actually keep growing, and people have job, business is doing well, so income in the economy actually grow. So people demand to spend more. They want to keep more cash with them so they can spend more because they are richer now. So we can learn that if this happens, interest rate would increase from R1 to R2, as people prefer to keep more cash. So if they don't have, they need to borrow, okay, so that they can spend it. Okay, so this is just the review of what we studied last week. Okay, I hope you recall of this thing again. Today we will continue. Okay, one more step. We will combine the two market. Okay, we will combine the foreign exchange market, which we learned in the previous chapter, and the money market, which we just learned last week. Okay, so here I put the two market together. Okay, so here I have on the upper part here, I have the foreign exchange market. Remember that the foreign exchange market is the market where people buy and sell the foreign currency. So we have the exchange rate here on the vertical axis, which is the exchange rate between euro and US dollar. Okay, suppose that US dollar is the home currency. Okay, so euro is the foreign currency, and we have exchange rate here. So if we move upward here, it means that the euro become expensive or appreciate, and the dollar depreciate. Okay, and on the horizontal axis here, just like in the previous chapter, we put the rate of return. Okay, so we have the interest rate and the expected rate of return for the foreign currency. So we learned that the foreign exchange market would be in equilibrium at 0.1 prime. Okay, in which the return that you get from deposit in the home currency, the US dollar, and the rate of return that you would get from deposit in euro, the foreign currency, would be equal, which we call the IPC. Okay, interest parity condition. It happened at 0.1 prime, and exchange rate is at E1. So the foreign exchange market is in equilibrium. Okay, in equilibrium. The lower part of this figure, I put the money market, which we just learned. So I have here I have moving downward here, I have the real money supply and real money demand. Okay, if we move downward more, it means that we have more money demand and also more money supply. Okay, and here I have the real money demand. Okay, which I draw like this. So we say that when the interest rate, okay, the rate of return is higher, then the real money demand on the real money supply would be, real money demand would be lower, as people prefer to keep less money in the pocket, and they prefer to put more money at the bank to earn interest rate because interest is higher. Okay, and we have the real money supply here. Okay, a vertical line which is independently, okay, set by the central bank. So the money market is at equilibrium of 0.1, and we have interest rate equaling to R1 and exchange rate is equaling to E1. Okay, so everything is in equilibrium, both in the money market and in the foreign exchange market. If you look at this, I just flip, okay, just rotate the money market, okay, I mean clockwise 90 degree. Okay, so in order to combine, because in the foreign exchange market we know that interest rate is the key driver. Okay, and now in the money market we also have interest rate. So this axis, so let me put the color here so you can see it better. So this axis is the interest rate, and it's also the rate of return. They are the key that combine, that join the two market together, the foreign exchange market and the money market together. Okay, so any question regarding this combinations of the foreign exchange market and money market? You have any questions? Hello, Samnang, good evening.
Yes, teacher.
Any question regarding the diagram that we combine the foreign exchange market and the money market together?
By looking at the graph, how do we know which currency is appreciate again which currency?
We don't know yet. Okay, we don't know yet. We just know that the money market is in equilibrium and the foreign exchange market also is in the equilibrium.
I see, teacher. Thank you.
Okay. We will know, okay, in a minute when there's some change, okay, in this is there any disturbance happen in any of this market? There will be appreciation and depreciation, but for the moment everything is in equilibrium, so we do not have such appreciation and depreciation yet. Okay, any other questions? Chiu Ming from Chiu Ming, good evening.
Yes, teacher. Teacher, so this combination of exchange rate graph and money market is like only one, right, teacher?
What do you mean by only one? Can you
Like about the middle line, they said the rate of return, teacher. I don't quite.
Yeah, the rate of return is the return you can get if you deposit the money at the bank. Okay, it's just like an interest rate for the home currency.
So that means is this does it mean how the exchange rate affect the money market, teacher?
In this graph, we just try to combine the two markets together. In the foreign exchange market, as we learned in the previous chapter, we learned that the interest rate or the rate of return is the key, okay, that have influence on exchange rate. We learned that if the currency offer high deposit interest rate, okay, we know that that currency will appreciate. Okay, as people want to buy those currency to deposit at the bank, and its price will become expensive. So in the previous chapter, in the foreign exchange market, we learned that interest rate is the key. Okay, if we want to predict exchange rate in the next day, the first predictor we want to see is the interest rate. Will it be going higher by tomorrow or it going down by tomorrow? That gives us a signal to predict about exchange rate. That's what we learned in the previous chapter. Okay, and in this chapter, okay, we learn about money market. Okay, what we learn in the money market, we learn that the quantity of money supply and money demand would have influence on the interest rate. Okay. So now we try to combine the two markets together. And our goal is that after we combine it, we will be able to see and to do some experiment or to draw some predictions when we change the money supply and the money demand, and we can learn what will happen to the exchange rate or the price of the currency in the foreign exchange market. Okay, so a disturbance in the money market, either because there is more money supply or there's more money demand, or there's less money supply or less money demand, there will be influence on exchange rate. Okay, Chimeng, hope I give you some answer for your question.
Okay, teacher, is better because I was wondering like how the exchange market affect the money, but money market,
Yes.
but now yeah, it's actually money market affect the exchange
Yes.
rate.
Yeah.
Teacher.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. We will do some experiment and some, predictions. Okay, some conclusion when there is a disturbance in the money market. So here is just a graph that if you have difficulty understanding this combination of the market, you can looking at this. You can look at this diagram, so it's easy. Okay, so here you can see that we have a money market, right? And as we learn in the money market, we have money demand and money supply, right? So this is the money market for the United States. In other words, we have the demand for US dollar. I mean, because US dollar is the money for the US economy, and we have the supply. Okay, so we know the quantity of US dollar that is moving or putting into the US economy, and there's also the demand for the US dollar in the US economy. Okay, so money demand and the money supply in the US economy, and here we have the money market but in the European. So this is the quantity of euro that have been putting into the European economy, and also the demand. Okay, the demands. And remember that the money supply is being controlled, okay, and set by this. In the US, it was the central bank of the US, which we call the Federal Reserve. In the Europe, we have a European Central Bank. Okay, so in the European country, in the EU, I mean the Eurozone, there's only one bank in Germany, we call it at Frankfurt. They have the power to print, okay? So other nation, which is a member of Eurozone, cannot print the euro, except that European Central Bank. Similarly, only the US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, can print US dollar, okay? Other bank cannot. It's illegal to do that, okay? So we can see that we can combine it, okay? So the money market, okay, as we learned that the money demand, money supply, we know when there's more money demand than money supply, or when there's less money demand than money supply, there will be impact on interest rate, okay? Similarly, this is interest rate for US dollar, and this one is interest rate for the euro. So we can combine it, and we can look at the foreign exchange market here. So in other words, the experiment that we're going to do is that the money supply in the US, okay, and the money supply in the European economy, or the money demand in the European economy, and the money demand in the US economy can have influence on the exchange rate, okay, on the exchange rate. So let's do the experiment. So this one is the case in which as I put the title, you can see increase in the home money supply. So let's say that the central bank of the US, the Federal Reserve, decide to inject more money. In other words, they decide to, let's say, printing the money, okay? So they print the money from the printing machine at the Federal Reserve, and they're providing loan, okay, to commercial bank in the countries. So what would be happen to the price of US dollar in comparing to foreign currency like euros? Okay, so we want to do that kind of predictions or experiment. Okay, so here let's begin. Okay, so everything is at the equilibrium in the foreign exchange market. The exchange rate is E1, and the interest rate is at R1. Okay, that's R1. Okay, rate of return on the home currency is R1. Let's say it's maybe 4%. Okay, if you deposit in US dollar, And if you deposit in euro, you also get 4%. Okay, return is at this, and the exchange rate is E1. Perhaps let's say 1 euro equaling to $1. Example, okay, exchange rate. Okay, and in the money market, when interest rate is equal to R1 or 4%, the quantity money that is been printed in the US, okay, let's say this side, let's say allowing to buy 2,000, okay, quantity of goods. The money in the US economy that have been printed by the US economy allow people to buy 2,000 quantity of goods, okay, and the demand for people also demand money enough to buy 2,000 quantity of good in the US economy. So equilibrium is at 0.1 when interest rate is R1. But now the central bank in the US decide to print more money and increase money supply. So we see that the curve of the money supply moving downward, suggesting that the money increased from M1 to M2, okay, because they print the money and they put into the economy. Putting means providing this money to the public or providing as a loan, okay, to the borrowers. So what happened is that in the money market, as we learned in the previous slide, we see that interest rate will drop, okay, from R1 to R2, because at the point R1, you can see that the money supply is bigger, okay, than the money demand, okay. There are more money than what people needed, okay. So interest rate would be lower. If you have more money than what you needed, please borrow from me. I'm going to give you low interest rate. I have more money than I needed, okay. Borrow from me, I charge you low interest rate. So interest rate would drop in this case, okay. And remember that when interest rate is the driver, is predictor, okay. The value of the currency is influenced by the rate of return or the interest rate that you can earn if you deposit that currency at the bank. So when interest rate actually is declining from R1 to R2, we see that the US dollar also depreciate or become cheaper. So maybe 1 euro now would equaling to $2. Okay, you need to have $2 to buy 1 euro before you can spend only $1 to buy 1 euro. In other words, dollar depreciate. So the conclusion we have from our prediction is that when the central bank in the US decide to increase money supply, okay, interest rate will be lower and the US dollar will depreciate. So that is our prediction. That is our conclusion. On the opposite, when the central bank in the US decide to reduce money supply, we learn that the US dollar will appreciate or become expensive. Okay, so that is our first experiment. So any question regarding this explanation, please?
Teacher, could you explain again the part when the central bank increase the money supply and then it leads to the decrease of interest rate, teacher?
Yes. Okay. So firstly, okay, when the central bank increased money supply, so we are moving from equilibrium at 0.1 to 0.2. Okay, we are moving because the central bank in the US print more US dollar and put into the economy. Okay, so interest rate would be lower. Okay, why interest rate is lower? As we learned in the previous chapter. Okay, at the original point, like 0.1, okay, like 4% here, it means that the demand for money is needed to buy the good in the economy is that is enough to buy 2,000 units, okay, of good in the economy with that size of money, M1, okay, with that size of M1s. Now the central bank have decided to increase the more money, okay, they print and put more money in the economy, so we have more money than needed, okay. So you see at 0.1, people need money that is enough to buy 2,000 units of good. But however, the central bank have print more money than people needed. Maybe that money at M2 allow them to buy 3,000 units. Okay. Okay. So in other words, people have more money because people need only money that is enough to buy 2,000 units. But now, in the whole economy, the money that have been printed and put into the economy allow them to buy 3,000. Okay, so it's more than what they need. In that case, people who have more money than they needed, they would want to provide loans. Please come and borrow from me. I don't need that much money. Okay, and I charge you very low interest rate. Because of that, interest rate will drop from 4% here at 0.1 to 2%. Maybe let's say 2%. Okay, so drop from 4% to 2%. And whenever the interest rate on the dollar is lower, because economy have more money than what people need, then the value of the dollar would also depreciate or become less expensive or cheaper. Okay, so €1 become $2. Okay, so you move from 0.1 to 0.2, and in the foreign exchange market, you move from 0.1 prime to 2 prime. Chimeng, is that?
Teacher, what about instead of loaning the leftover money, they decided to deposit it into the bank, then
Yes,
does it affect anything?
of course, if you try to deposit in the bank and the bank already have more money already, okay, and it's just like you, when you deposit money at the bank, you can think like you are providing loan to the bank. Okay, you are the depositor, the money is yours, but now you put in the bank just like you provide loan to the bank. Okay, the bank will make use of that money. It will may loan that money to other borrowers, but it will give you interest rate. Okay. So the same thing, as many people rush to deposit money at the bank because they have more money than they needed, interest rate will drop. Okay, because bank, please borrow from me, I charge low interest rate. Okay, Chimeng, is that
Yes,
understandable?
teacher, I got it. But how can it influence um to the exchange rate with other currency, teacher?
Well, the point is that remember when interest rate on dollar deposit drop, before it's 4%, now it's only 2%. Okay, so people would think that why would I want to buy dollar? Because the interest rate I can earn is actually lower than before. I would not want to invest by deposit in US dollar because it gave me only 2%. Before it gave me 4%, but now it gave me only 2%. Okay, less. So people actually may not want to deposit in US, and if people don't actually need dollar for deposit, they don't want to buy dollar. Okay. So if you have euro, you better deposit in euro. Okay. You don't need to buy dollar in order to deposit in dollar. If you deposit in dollar, you get only 2% less than before. Okay. So you don't need to buy dollar. Okay. If you have dollar, you want to use it to buy euro. You don't need dollar. Okay. There's no demand for dollar because dollar offer very low rate of return than before. That fact, okay, would make the value of dollar less valuable. Okay. And when the dollar become less valuable, exchange rate would move from €1 equaling $1 to €1 equaling $2, meaning that the dollar become cheaper. Nobody need it because it offer you only 2% less than before, which is 4%. Chimeng, is that explanation understandable?
Yes, teacher. Thank you, teacher.
Any other questions? So if not, we can do other experiment. This is the case in which we have the case where the European Central Bank decide to increase the money supply. Okay, they decide to increase money supply. So you see here that in the money market there is nothing happen. Okay, you can see everything is the same at 0.1. Okay, everything is still here in equilibrium. Money demand equaling money supply, interest rate equaling to all one. Okay, so when the central bank in the European Central Bank print more money and put into the economy, we learned that interest rate on euro would be lower, right? Because there's more euro than people need. Okay, so people have access. Okay, they have more euro than needed. They would try to deposit at the bank. Okay, or providing loan to other people, and interest rate on euro would be lower. In other words, the rate of return from euro deposit would be lower. Okay, we can represent that by a shift of the curve, the return on the euro deposit backward to the left. Okay, so you can see that exchange rate would drop from let's say original it's $1, €1 equaling $1. But now, okay, as people return on interest rate on euro is dropping, we see that the value of euro also drop. So maybe €1 would be just only $0.5. You can buy euro by just spending only 0.5 because euro is becoming cheaper or euro is depreciated. Okay, so we can predict that. Okay, so if the next morning if you read the news like CNBC or CNN and you learn that the European Central Bank is going to loosen or increasing money supply in the European economy, we can predict that perhaps the euro, the price of euro or euro will depreciate against other currency. Okay. So that's what we can do with this model. So here I have the conclusion. So when the central bank in the US, okay, change the money supply, we can have this conclusion. So an increase in the money supply, okay, country money supply would cause the currency to depreciate. A decrease in money supply would cause the foreign currency to, the home currency to appreciate. Okay, so that's what we can learn. I think in the last month, okay, maybe last 2 months, you heard the Central Bank of Cambodia, the NBC, provide auction by selling dollar. Okay, when they sell dollar, they try to collect back Khmer Real. Okay, by that means it will make reduce the money supply of Khmer Real in the economy, and it will rise the value of Khmer Real. Okay, so exchange rate would actually drop from $1 maybe 4,200 to $1 4,100. Okay, the value of real would actually appreciate because central bank is trying to reduce real in the economy by selling US dollar, and the price US dollar would depreciate. Okay, the real would appreciate. So the message that you can take home from now on is that whenever the central bank of one country increase money supply in its economy, the value of the currency of that country will depreciate. That's the message. For the foreign country here, for foreign European in this case, an increase in the European money supply will cause depreciation of the euro. Okay, and a decrease in the European money supply, the euro, would actually cause the euro to appreciate. Okay, that's the conclusion we have. But one notice is that when in this diagram 59, when the European Central Bank increase and reduce or decrease money supply, we don't see any change in the money market here because the money market here is the US dollar money market, okay, not the euro money market. Okay, so that is the conclusion we have. The next thing I like to talk, any question regarding this conclusion? I hope it's just a wrap up of what Chimei actually asked. Okay. Key message is very simple. If you hear the news that the central bank of your country increase money supply, you can predict that the your own currency will depreciate. Okay, that's the key message. The next slide I'm going to show you is this is the long run. Okay, long run analysis of the price level. Okay, in the previous diagram that we have been doing experiment is the case where price does not change. Okay, so you can see here, you can see in the here, when the central bank increase money supply from M1 to M2, you can see price still the same. Okay, price on the market is the same. So this is a case of short run because price cannot change yet. And when there is more money in the economy, price does not change yet. So that's we call that short run. Okay, so the conclusion that we have so far regarding the case central bank increase money supply, reduce money supply is the case of short run. Now we are moving away to a long run. Okay, and we We try to see what happened when there's such kind of short run happening. Will the conclusion remain the same or not? Okay, we're doing that more in the next chapter, but now the first, before we do anything else, is that I want to show you what happened when the central bank keep printing more and more money every year. Okay, what happened to the price? I think you learn in the macroeconomics. You know that when we have more money, okay, in the economy, then the price would become expensive. In other words, you will have inflation. Okay, so we can have this is the equilibrium in the money market, just like we have in the previous slide. So I just make some adjustment. Okay, remember we have the real money supply, which I put here. We take the size of money in the economy divided by price, and then I have the real money demand here, which is influenced by interest rate and income of people in the economy. Okay. So I make, this is the money market. I make some adjustment. So I draw P to other sides. So I can get equation 15.5. Okay. The equation 15.5 gives us one implication. It says that price in the economy, depending on the ratio of the money supply, the size of money in the economy, and the real money demand. Okay. So if there's any change in the money supply and the real money demand, there will be effect on the price. So here I have a permanent increase in the money supply. In other words, central bank increase money supply every year. So let's say it increased 10%, 10%, 10% every year. What will happen to the price? Okay, suppose that the money demand, real money demand remain the same. If the central bank keep increasing money supply permanently, okay, we know that price will become expensive. Okay, so if one economy keep printing more and more money every year, you print more money, and the real money demand does not increase, but only more money, okay, keep growing in the economy. We can say, you can think of like too much money chasing good. Okay, too much money chasing good, too much money. Okay, too much money, too much money chasing good, chasing. Okay, good. So we know that in this case happen when there's too much money in the economy. We know the price will become expensive. Okay, do we have inflations? That's what we can. If you don't believe me, let me ask you. I like to ask Muni. Hello, good evening, Muni. Are you there? And Muni, hello. Seems like Muni don't respond to me. So I'd like to ask Udom. Hello, Udom, are you there? Hello, Udom. Okay, no response. Let me ask Darlene. Good evening, Darlene. Hello, Darlene. Okay, I cannot. Darlene is not here. Hello, Saina. Good evening. Hello, Saina. Can you hear me? Hello, Saina. Bien Saina. Okay.
Sir, you call me, sir. Sorry.
Yes, I'm calling you. But seems you no response.
Yes,
Okay.
please ask, sir. Call me.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Okay. So supposing
Yes,
that the central bank like NBC, they print more money. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then it go to your house and knock the doors and give you the money. What would you
Yes,
do
sir.
with the money?
I take it and spend, sir.
Yeah. Your cost, right? Okay. So when you spend it, what will happen to the price on the market?
It will increase, sir. It will.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So this is a case where you have too much money chasing good. Okay. So if the production of good in the economy does not increase, but people have more money because central bank have print the money, the thing is that it's only make the price of good become expensive because people would try to buy things. Okay, the demand would increase, and if the supply does not increase, okay, in an equivalent amount to the size of money that increase, then price on the market will become expensive. In other words, economy will have the inflations. So the graph on the left hand side is the empirical evidence that they do for countries, developing country from 1980 to 2014. So here we have the percentage of money supply increase, and we have the on the vertical axis here we put the let me clear this up. Okay, we put the increasing in price, or you can call it like the CPI. Okay, we have the CPI here, or the inflations. Okay, and you can see when each dot representing the relationship. Okay, for example, in the year 2009, this is the size of money supply is about more than 10% increase in money supply, and the rate of price increase is about is here. Okay, CPI is here. Okay. So you can see that when we draw a line, you see that there is a slope upward or positive, suggesting that over this long period of time from 1980 to 2014, when the money supply increase, you're likely to have the inflation too. Okay, so it's true that if you're printing too much money in the economy, your economy is likely to have inflations. Okay, so we have a theory now. Okay? More money supply, more inflations. Okay. The next slide is just the showing you of the comparison of the fluctuation in the. I have the fluctuation in the red here is the from 1980s. Okay, so the fluctuation, the red here is the you can it is called the CPI, the price level. You can think of inflations. So you can see inflation is between 5% and some slightly below 0% sometimes, but on average it's not large. And the blue the blue line is the fluctuation in exchange rate. Okay? So when we plot this together, what we can learn is that over a long, we can learn that price do change. Okay, price do change, but the percentage change, volatility of price are less than the change in exchange rate. Okay, so you can see that from month to month. Okay, so here I have monthly. Okay, you can see sometimes the change in exchange rate can go up to about more than 15%, and sometimes it may drop down to more than minus 10%. But price change is between a range of maybe minus 1% to minus 2%. Okay, so price change very little. Price tend to be very sticky. Okay, it change. Okay, but little. And interest rate. Okay, sorry, exchange rate do change very, unpredictable. Okay, so the next morning if somebody come to ask you to bet, okay, the currency is just like gold FH, okay, GFH, okay, see, okay, exchange rate change a lot. Okay, I think that's the first part on the exchange rate. Okay. Oh, we have a few slides to finish, so let me try to finish it. Okay. Yes.
What does fluctuation in exchange rate mean?
Well, this is the percent. I think this is percentage change. Okay. So let's say from January to February, we do the calculation in percentage. Okay. What is the percentage change in the exchange rate? Okay. From 1 month to the next month. Okay. And from 1980 to 2016. Okay. So for 1 year, you have 12 months. Okay. So you can do the calculations. Okay. And the blue line here is the percentage change in the exchange rate. Exchange rate. You can think like say exchange between dollar and yen here. Okay. So you can say sometimes the change. Okay. So let's say today 1 yen equaling $1. The next day it can go up to $1 equaling 100 yens. Okay. So the percentage change is 100%, okay, in this case. So from 1 month to the next month, you see this kind of percentage change, and it plot in this graph, okay, represented by the blue line. The red line is percentage change, but it's for price, okay. For example, the CPI today is 100. The next day, CPI will go up to 102. So price increased by 2%. Okay, so we do the monthly change, and we compare. When we compare, you can see that the exchange rate change, percentage change are much volatile, in a sense that it change too much. Sometimes it go too high, sometimes it drop too low. Okay, while price tend to change, but not much. Okay, not much. Is that explanation? Okay.
Yes. Can I
Nita?
ask one more question about
Yes.
the inflation? So we know that inflation is kind of normal and it's
Yes.
only progress in the long run, but there are countries that have hyperinflation, something like that. So at what point do we know that the country is going down? Like, what do we look at? Because like it's normal to understand the question.
I'm trying to understand your questions.
No, like
Are you saying, yeah, are you saying that what happened when the country having inflation? Would it have impact on the economic growth, or is that your question?
No, Lecter, I was wondering like because inflation is normal from year to year. So
Yes, sure.
at what point do we know
Too
that
much inflation.
yeah, there are too much inflation? Like, what do
Okay,
we?
very good questions.
Okay.
Yeah, very good questions. This is a good question. Okay, so we learn, for example, our country, right? In Cambodia, we have annual inflation about 3.5%, on average 3% per year. Okay, for every year, price on the market, price of goods and service on the market increase around 3% per year. Okay, so the money you have at hand would reduce its power. Okay, purchasing power by about 3%. So if we think of this level, 3%, it's not that much. Okay, it's not that much. We call that this is generally because if economy it keep going, okay, like GDP grow, okay, so people would need more money, okay, and of course if you run a business, right, and if the price of good that you are selling don't increase, you're not happy, right? Even your labor, when you sell your labor, you're working, you want salary to be higher. So it's impossible. It's okay that we can have inflation like that. The problem is that too much inflation would actually reduce your powers. Okay, and for some country like in Israel in the past, or maybe in some like in Sudan, inflation can go up to about 100% or 1,000%. Okay, it could be go up very high. We call that hyperinflation. Okay, so 100%, for example. Okay, so let's say you have $1 today, and $1 is being able to buy, let's say, 1 cup of coffee. Okay, so you say, I don't want to spend it today, I keep in the pocket, okay, overnight. And you woke up in the morning, you go to the coffee shop, price have already increased 100%. So price go up to $2. So you have $1, you cannot buy anything, okay? See, unless you have $2. So very high inflation like 100% would not a good thing. So what is the level of inflation that we could consider that is too bad, okay? It's hard to say about that, but according to the IMF, okay, maybe the rate below 30%, okay. Inflation of 30% is actually in a range that is acceptable, okay, acceptable. Beyond that, about 30%, maybe your economy is having trouble, okay, like Sudan. Or in Sudan, okay, when inflation is too high, when you reach 100 or 1,000%, people stop using your money, okay. You can buy nothing, okay. You carry a big bag of money, you can buy nothing because price on the market have increased too faster than the money you have, okay. So we don't want that, okay. So some countries have adopted the inflation targeting, okay. So they target it to be somewhere between below 15% and so on, okay. I don't know if I answer your question or it somehow be helpful for you, Nita.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay.
But teacher, I have a question about the inflation, teacher.
Yes.
Um, like the inflation rate, they actually goes up and down. But
Right.
when the
Yes.
price goes up, then is it any chance that it can goes down? Because like for example, in Vietnam, like we can see that the price is really high, and it's because of big inflation rate, teacher.
Okay, price can go up and down. So we calculate the inflation. We say the annual inflation. So you calculate annually from 1 year to the next year. What is the price in this year, and what is the price in the previous year? If the price in this year is higher than in the previous year, it means you have inflation. Okay. If the price in this year is lower than price in the previous year, then you have the opposite. Okay. You may have inflation, but it's not much comparing to the previous year. Or you may have deflation, which is the opposite. Okay. Price on the market decrease. Okay. So price can go up and down. Okay. According to the market. Okay. And the demand and supply in the market. Humane, I don't know if I answer your questions.
Yes, teacher, you did. Thank you, teacher.
Okay, I think let's finish this chapter by talking. Okay, so we already learned that when the central bank increase money supply, okay, we know that the value currency of that country will depreciate because you have too much money. Interest rate will be lower. Okay, so we want to learn if that still, I mean, conclusion is still valid when we move into the long run. Okay, when price change. Okay, um, so let's see. Okay, so what happened? Let's looking at this chart together. But now we allow price to change. So let's begin everything at point one here. Okay, so at point one, the money market is in equilibrium. The money supply is M1, the price P1, and interest rate is R1. Okay, and in the foreign exchange market, the exchange rate is E1. Maybe one euro is $1. Okay, €1 is $1, and interest rate is 4%. Okay, and the money supply may be enough to buy 2,000 unit of good, and people also demanding to buy 2,000 unit. Okay, so everything is in equilibrium. But now let's say the central bank decide to increase money supply. Okay, in the US they print more US dollar and put into the economy, so money supply increase to M2. Okay, the price remain the same, it's P1. Okay, so that is in the short run, so price does not change. Okay, price not change yet. In that case, we know that the currency would depreciate because interest rate would drop from R1 to R2, right? So we know that the currency would depreciate, but by how much? You see here, you see that the interest rate would drop from R1 to R2, okay, suggesting that maybe you can earn only 2%, not 4% like before. And then the euro would become expensive, dollar would become cheaper or depreciate. So you move from 0.1 prime to 0.3 prime here. Okay, so you may move to somewhere like E3 here. Okay, E3 here. So we know that the US dollar would depreciate because the central bank print too much money and put into the economy. But there is another thing that happened. Okay, people form an expectations. They know that there will be inflations. So if we make the value of dollar become much worse or become actually much cheaper, okay? Because central bank actually creating an expectation, okay? So in response to these expectations, people believe that it's not good to keep in dollar. It's better to sell dollar and buy euro and deposit. So they form an expectation. That expectation would bring exchange rate, okay? Would cause dollar to depreciate by too much. Okay, so you're not only moving from E1 to E3. In other words, US dollar only not depreciate by dropping from E1 to E3, but you drop too much to E2. So the value of dollar depreciate by too much. That happened because people form the expectations. Okay, so by the end of the day, you come to 0.2 prime. Maybe $1 is €1 would call equaling to $5. Okay, so in other words, the dollar depreciate by too much because people respond by forming expectations. If people don't form any expectations, then you would only $1 maybe become only €1 maybe only $2. Okay, dollar would depreciate, but not that much. But because people form an expectation, then the dollar depreciate a lot. Okay, depreciate a lot. So this is short run. Price does not change. It's still at P1. The next day, price start to increase. So now price increase from P1 to P2. Remember that when you print too much money, okay, there are too much money chasing good. People have more money, so they want to buy things. Okay, just like Chumeng, okay. When the NBC give him the money, he want to buy things, or at least he want to buy machine for investment. Okay, that would be make the price of good become expensive. Okay, so when the price start to increase, the real money supply would start to reduce again. Okay, moving backward to original points. Okay, and as the real money supply decrease, you know that interest rate would increase again. Okay, so there are less money now. Okay, as the price become increased, the money that have can buy less thing. Okay, as price become expensive, so people will need more money by trying to borrow if they want to buy things. Okay, so interest rate increase, and as interest rate increase, the US dollar, okay, the prices would start to appreciate or become expensive again. But you will come back to something like point E3, okay? Okay, so E3. So if we're looking at this, okay, when in the long runs, okay, in the long run, we know that in the short run, when the central bank increases money supply, the value of the currency of that country would depreciate. And it may depreciate by a lot if people form expectations. However, in the long run, when price start to increase, the value of that currency, of home country currency, would start to appreciate or become expensive again. It will recover again, but it never come back to the original. Remember that originally we start at E1, at point 1, but in the long run, we only come back at E3, okay? So this event is called the overshooting. We call that overshooting. Overshooting is a phenomenon in which you see exchange rate actually go too far before it come back to some level. It never come back to original positions. Okay, this happened because people form an expectations. Okay, so news. Okay, the news you hear about political issues, news you hear about anything on the market, news you hear about COVID-19 can actually cause overshooting. Okay, because it can create overshooting. And this is just a graph that we show you the situation. So originally you begin with M1, and then the central bank increase money supply. Okay, so interest rate would actually drop to E2. Okay, and price. Okay, when price. Okay, originally price still at P1, but when price start to increase. Okay, as you have too much money, then chasing good. Okay, price start to increase, money supplies, interest rate start to actually increase backward. Okay, and you can see that the exchange rate, okay, start to come back, but it never come back to E1 here. Okay, it jumped from E1 to E2. Okay, in the short run, currency depreciate a lot. Okay, and it start to decline as price start to increase. It tried to come back to E1, but it never. It end up only at E3. Okay, so we call that the overshooting. When you come back and looking at this volatility, you may have question, why do exchange rate spiking up and down? Okay, explosion. Okay, this is an indication of the overshooting. Okay, so it go too high before it drop back. Okay, so that is an overshooting. So that's why the exchange rate so volatile. Okay, this is overshooting is a situation in which the disturbance force push equilibrium too far before returning back to its equilibrium. Exchange rate is said to overshoot when its immediate response to a disturbance is greater than its long run response. Okay, it helps explain why exchange rate is too much volatile. Okay, overshooting is the consequence of the short run rigidity of the price and the expectation. I have an image which easy for you to remember. This is kind like, this is the motorbike stunt rider. Okay, Robert Williamson, he's an Australian. So you see the motorbike here. Okay, if, okay, so the motorbike is running with a speed that pulls it forward, okay. If there's no such forward, it would drop, okay. Yeah. Okay, but because the force that push forward, because you have a gravity that pull it down, okay. It's not physics class, but you can compare it, okay. So as the force is still being there, it will push the motorbike forward, okay, before it drops. So this phenomenon is like the overshooting. So sometimes exchange rate will go too high, okay, before it start. It don't drop immediately, okay. It takes some time, but it never come back to the original position because the expectation have pushes too far. Okay. And that's end for the lecture today. If you have any question, please. So what do we learn implication for this? So sometimes when people hear the news, okay, about, let's say, China is not being able to control the spread of Omicron, for example, it can cause the price of yuan to drop too much. Okay, if people form a very bad negative expectation, everybody rush to sell yuan. I don't need yuan, okay, because China cannot control, economy will go down, okay. We cannot do business in China. Let's sell all yuan and fly out of the countries. That would make the situation worse, okay. But on the other hand, if you could convince people that, well, there's Omicron, but that people can still test it using PCR test. They can control, they can regulate it. In that case, it means people don't form that bad expectation, and they don't need to rush out of the country selling yuan. Okay, so yuan would depreciate, but not that much. So that's how the overshooting can be a very problematic. Okay, expectation. Okay, is could be a good thing, okay, but it could be a bad thing, okay. It's like a two-edged sword, okay. It could help, but it can also harm, okay. I think I like end here. If you don't have any question, I like to end the meeting here. And any question now?
Lecture.
Yes.
The immediate response to
I cannot hear you, Nita.
what does the immediate response to the disturbance means?
Wait, when something actually happen, you try to respond, right, by behaving in some way. In the foreign exchange market, if you learn that the return on, let's say, the euro is decreasing, then you want to sell euro. That would cause the price of euro to depreciate because nobody needs euros. Nobody want to visit Europe, and they don't need euros. Okay, that's how they respond. So the response is that the euro will depreciate when the return on euro decrease. But it's at the same time you form a very, very bad expectation that European economy will never come back, and it will be very long time. Then not only you, many other people would want to sell euro. That would make the price of euro, okay, drop too low. No one at all would need euro, okay. So euro would depreciate by that much. That is the immediate response. I don't know if I properly completely answer your questions. Nita?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Come here. Hello, come here.
Yes, lecturer.
Any question regarding the discussion so far?
I don't have any question, lecturer.
Okay. So I think since we don't have time, and I think we want to keep more time for our presenter, I like to end the lecture here, and I give time to our presenter. So we'll take a break for about let's say 15 minutes, okay? So we come back at yep.
Teacher, I have one question. So today
Okay.
we don't have a
Can you repeat the question again?
so if today we have a presentation, so we do not have a midterm exam.
No, midterm exam is I mean, I will like a take home, okay? I will pause it, like the quiz, and I set the deadline, okay?
Oh, yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, sir.
You have 2 days to do it,
Yeah.
okay? And you have to return, okay, by that day, okay?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
So it's nothing to worry for the time, okay? It's not a live exam, okay? For the final exam, you may have the live exam, but for the midterm, it's okay, okay? Not a live exam. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So let's have a break for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So we come back at 6:55, okay? And we will listen to our presenter, the last group today. Okay, so let's have a break. Goodbye.